It's not what you look at that matters, but what you see. By Henry David Thoreau challenge us to look and see in a more thoughtful and purposeful manner. Today, I would like to invite you to do the same because we often overlook the wealth or hidden potential in people. I learned this almost 20 years ago, my first year teaching at a university with the bright young man who I will call Adam. Adam was involved in gangs, like to push boundaries and exert dominance physically and verbally. He was challenging to work with, and at times, I wanted to give up, but did not. I was determined to be the best professor that I could be and to have strong boundaries so that my classroom and I were respected. It wasn't always easy, and we often had power struggles. For example, one day I walked into my classroom and found Adam lying on the floor with a big smirk on his face, teasing me and daring him to make him get up. While temporarily thrown off balance, I knew it was a power play. Who would control the classroom? Me, the young professor at the time, or Adam, the tough student? I was determined that it would be me. And let me tell you, we had quite the confrontation. For some time, the atmosphere in the classroom was very tense, as Adam and I had a lively exchange of words and a stare down. To my relief, Adam eventually got up and sat at his desk. The classroom was mine that day, but you know what? The war was far from over. That is why I will never forget the day we reached a detente. While walking down the university hallway, I saw Adam looking lost, hunched over, and sad. I wanted to pretend I did not see him and walk away, but I couldn't. It was a very different Adam. For that reason, I walked up to him and asked, "Are you okay?" To my surprise, he threw himself into my arms and began to sob. With deep sorrow, he whispered, "Miss, my best friend was shot and died last night." In that moment, all I could do was hold him and let him cry. After that day, Adam did not cause too much trouble and worked harder as a student. Once he graduated, I never saw him again. However, about 1.5 years later, I received an unexpected email from Adam telling me that he had moved, transferred schools, and was about to graduate. He thanked me for not giving up on him and for being strict. He said he needed that. He also mentioned that my belief in him helped him believe in himself. You see, what Adam does not know is that he played a big role in my life too. Until then, I never realized how determined I could be to navigate past difficult work situations while remaining committed to my students' success. That determination and commitment helped me grow into a more patient and compassionate human being who does her best to look past surface appearances, leads with her heart, and sees through the lens of our shared humanity. In Adam's case, it meant looking past his tough exterior and seeing his intelligence, street smarts, and tenacity as hallmarks of uncapped potential. It also meant pushing him even when he was difficult and did not believe in himself. And you know what? As I pushed Adam, he pushed me too. He helped me realize the power of recognizing potential in others. You see, when you recognize potential in people and act on it or give them an opportunity at something, you positively impact their lives, as seen with Adam. I believe most of us here can agree that at some point in our own lives, we have needed someone to recognize our potential, to believe in us, and give us an opportunity at something. Can you remember a time it happened to you? How it made you feel? The more I witnessed the power of recognizing potential in others, the more determined I began to integrate it into my thought leadership. As a result, I found that recognition works best when three things happen that I coined the triad of recognition, and that based on where you are at in your life, you may be the one recognizing others or the one being recognized. That is why it is important to have self reflection and to look and see in a more thoughtful and meaningful manner. So, what is this triad of recognition? It involves three things. One, recognizing or seeing potential in others. Two, mirroring that recognition. And three, self recognition for our own potential. Reflecting on Adam's story, the triad of recognition was at work then, even though I did not know it at that time. In part one of the triad, I recognized Adam's potential and pushed him to do better academically and enforce strong boundaries. In part two of the triad, Adam mirrored my recognition. He realized that I recognized his potential, and so he was willing to work harder and change his behavior. And in part three of the triad, Adam arrived at self recognition. Despite his personal challenges and background, he was willing to see and believe in his own potential, leading him to leave gang life behind, take his studies seriously, and later graduate. After that experience, I became determined to look for potential in others and do something about it by paying attention to people's wants, needs, and desires, as well as their strengths and weaknesses. By paying attention to this, it gave me the opportunity to provide assignments that strengthened and stretched people's skill set and confidence. And what I found during this time is that people thrive when given an opportunity to grow. And that growth is a fundamental human need. We all want to be growing and evolving. I also learned that when we are not recognized and we are not given an opportunity to grow, our morale and self esteem suffer. Several years ago, my professional morale suffered. The triad of recognition was not working in my own life. At that time, I had been tasked with revitalizing a dormant arts and cultural center for a university. Once I restored the center with positive feedback from leadership above me, I began to think about my own career and salary growth and realized that they were limited because of the way my job was classified. With that in mind, I created a list of measurable performance outcomes that I had achieved and proposed to my former boss either a raise or reclassification. I was told that it was not in the budget nor possible at that time. That no was later followed by accolades, praises, and stellar yearly reviews from that boss and the one who followed. Now, this led me to feel a little bit conflicted because being told no while simultaneously receiving really strong praise felt awkward. Has something similar ever happened to you? Yes. It's a strange feeling, right? That for me was further amplified because my bosses, my former bosses, are very good people who were very supportive in other ways that contributed to my success as a center director. And I feel genuine gratitude, respect, and friendship towards them for that. But that support is different than being given an opportunity to grow, specifically because I asked and had measurable performance outcomes to warrant the possibility of a yes. It is also different than saying, I see you, I hear you. While this year's budget and circumstances do not allow it, let's create a plan and see if we can incorporate it into next year if XYZ conditions are met. I was disheartened that never happened and accepted the no because I loved my job and was not driven by money. I was, however, driven by having the opportunity to grow. While subtle, it's important to recognize the difference because growth opportunities mean that achievement and performance are recognized. Let me repeat that. Growth opportunities mean that achievement and growth and performance are recognized. It took me a long time to resolve my internal conflict and admit that my growth needs would not be met. The catalyst for me was reevaluating family priorities, and I'm getting a little emotional, after my mother died of COVID 19. And so in 2021, I resigned. I later learned from former colleagues that it was difficult to find a new director during a failed search. That failed search led leadership to reclassify my former position in the manner I had proposed. While I am genuinely happy for the new center director, it was bittersweet. And yet, guess what? My experience is not industry specific, nor was it personal, but rather an institutional and structural byproduct that showcases why people quit: failure to recognize potential and lack of opportunity for growth. Here's some data that I ran into after my resignation. And this is important to note because it helps us understand what's happening in the workplace. One, according to the Social Market Foundation, happy employees are 12% more productive. Two, last year Gallup reported that over 50% of employees were quiet quitting. That means that instead of quitting their jobs, they're quitting the idea of working hard and only do the bare minimum needed to keep their jobs. And three, last year Clearco reported that employees said that lack of development is preventing them from reaching their full potential. As I was looking at this data, I had many aha moments. And one is that organizations must place greater emphasis on how an employee's performance, potential, and growth needs intersect with organizational needs. Another is that organizations need to have employees who are happy in the workplace and are invested in staying as well as being productive. So what does all of this mean? Employers must be determined to purposely retain talent. Let me repeat that. We must be determined to purposely retain talent. Otherwise, we will lose it. People will prioritize those who prioritize them. I'll repeat that too. People will prioritize those who prioritize them. We collectively witnessed this during the great resignation triggered by COVID 19 that led many employees to reevaluate their work and life priorities, leading many to quit their jobs. I was one of those people. Were you too? Or do you know somebody who did? Yes, I see you nodding. Almost 20 years ago, Adam was the spark that ignited different elements of determination within me. From being determined to be the best professor that I could be, to being determined to recognize the power of potential within people. Today, my determination has evolved and catalyzed into something much bigger. Today, I am determined to grow a movement of leaders who make an intentional practice of recognizing potential in others in order to positively impact their lives and strengthen places of employment. I invite you to be a part of this movement. You can start doing that today by using the triad of recognition. Let's recap. It involves 3 things. 1, recognizing or seeing potential in others. 2, mirroring that recognition. And 3, self-recognition for our own potential. Here's some quick tips for leaders. Leaders, be determined and intentional to look for potential in others. Assign projects that help your employees grow and strengthen their skill sets. And if employee is looking for growth opportunities, co-create a clear learning and development plan that specifically outlines measurable goals for the employee that are aligned with organizational needs. Rising leaders, recognize and appreciate all the people who are helping you. Practice self-recognition in terms of your strengths, your weaknesses, and your goals. Be open to positive feedback and ask your supervisor for help co-creating a learning and development plan. A learning and development plan may not mean an immediate promotion, but it puts you on the path. For everybody, remember, it is easy to overlook people or to be the one overlooked. But you have the power to not only look for potential in others, but to also act on it. Be intentional and determined to do so. Thank you.